I am not an attorney. Neither is my next guest, though we both at times have to pretend that we are one on TV. He's an NFL Network insider. Many might call him the second best NFL Network insider. My friend Ian Rapoport is here. You can see Ian and me. I don't know why I'm not on the card here. Sunday on NFL Network's NFL Game Day kickoff, 7 a.m. Eastern time, leading up to Seahawks Buccaneers at 9:30 a.m. Eastern from Munich. Ian, obviously, again, we're not equipped to get into the legalese here, but this does not sound good for Daniel Snyder, and he is currently under fire from a lot of different angles. What do you make just of the developments here in recent days, including those dueling statements that went out from the team yesterday?
First of all, I would take issue with your credibility with regards to calling me the second best insider. I mean, if you say
people are saying it,
kinds of things
it's not
to
just
your
me.
Fans, what should they believe? Like, which of the other false statements of yours are they going to be subjected to? If you would lie about something as important as this, then what else would you lie about?
They're still trying to lower you to number 3, Ian. So if you want to answer my question about the Commanders, feel free. Otherwise, we'll adjust the rankings again.
Whoa. No, it's fine. Firm but fair. First of all, it is interesting, and I'm kind of like you. I'm reading this stuff right now. I'm watching the press conference. I'm trying to figure out what a consumer protection lawsuit is, and what it seems to be is basically that the Commanders pretended everything was fine while telling their fans that everything was fine, while everything was certainly not fine as it pertains to workplace misconduct and really like 5 other things with the Commanders. I mean, so many other things with the Commanders. That's what it seems to be, that they sort of allegedly defrauded the public by not admitting that they were messed up in many, many ways. That is essentially my summation. Added to the list, though, Tom. Like there's 5 other investigations. This is now another one, and obviously it's significant because it's the DCAG and all that, but it's really kind of just throw it on the pile. Like how many other things is there going to be? Is this the one thing that is the tipping point? I don't know, because there's so many other investigations going on. The people I've spoken with, high-ranking, well-sourced people, believe that Dan Snyder is leaning toward eventually selling, and I would imagine this will only sort of kick that in the right direction.
Carl Racine, the Attorney General for District of Columbia, holding his press conference now, saying in part, and this is from Mark Maskey's tweet, the office is seeking financial penalties for every incident in which the Commanders, Mr. Snyder, the NFL, and Commissioner Goodell lied to district residents dating back to July 2020, could face millions of dollars in penalties. Roping the league and the commissioner into this, certainly, Ian, I think adds another element, since the NFL has, whether it was Goodell going before Congress, whether it is having Mary Jo White to run an investigation into some of these allegations, the league has tried to, and previously finding Daniel Snyder and suspending him for whatever that's worth, based upon an earlier investigation. They've tried to play the role that they are governing the turnaround that they hope and that they talk about a lot for the Commanders. Right. What the Attorney General seems to be saying here is you are equally culpable, and I would certainly anticipate that the league is going to respond forcibly once they wrap their arms around this.
Yeah, I would imagine there'll be a statement or two coming, and I would also wonder, if the AG believes that the league looked the other way as it pertains to workplace misconduct, where and when and what proof is there? I mean, that's sort of what this is about. I mean, there's, are they going to find instances where Dan Snyder was very well aware of the workplace environment? I don't know. Anecdotally, my guess is probably there will be a couple. But at what point did the league know that the workplace, culture was so bad, and did they just ignore it? Like, I would be curious what sort of actual evidence there is of that. But one thing that I know for sure is this is all going to play out very, very publicly, because all of these things seem to play out publicly. So lucky for us, this will not be the last time we'll hear of this, unless and until Dan Snyder sells, and then, will settlement of whatever this is be part of that sale? I think that would be a question moving forward, too.
And meanwhile, Racine, who is still talking, says that they will seek a court order to release the findings of the previous Beth Wilkinson organization, which has been a rallying cry for the many women who had, through their attorneys, attempted to cooperate with the NFL investigation and move this thing forward. There is other news happening here. Ron Rivera having his own football press conference, by the way, at the same time as the Attorney General is fitting based upon everything that's happened there. But let's talk about what's going on in Buffalo here, Ian. Josh Allen not practicing for a second consecutive day, dealing with the elbow injury. I know you'd previously reported this is something they hope that Allen is able to manage. Where is the level of hope, if any, that Allen's going to be out there on Sunday against the Vikings?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two parts of this. There's the fact that it's not like when this happened, my brain immediately went to like thinking Bobby just tore his elbow apart. It seems to not be that. It seems to be a UCL sprain, which, as you know, is a tiny tear, not a big tear, which is good. The fact that it's not out for the season, that it is something he can manage, is excellent news for Bills Mafia and Bills fans, and also Josh Allen himself, because that would be really bad. But it doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to play this week. And it seems to me to be somewhat similar, maybe not quite as bad, but somewhat similar to the UCL sprain he had to his rookie. It was either his rookie year or his second year, where he kind of missed some time. I think missed 3 or 4 games. And then when he was able to get back, he looked like his old self. Like, I don't think it'll be that many games, but that's sort of what I'm thinking here, is something he can rehab. And most UCL sprains for football players are non-surgical. That seems to be the case here as well.
NFL Network insider Ian Rapoport is our guest. Kyler Murray also popped up on the injury report yesterday, Ian, as did his opponent this week, Matthew Stafford, with a concussion. Concussions, of course, that's part of the NFL's protocol. But with Kyler and the hamstring, something that we saw actually on Hard Knocks, if you watched the Hard Knocks in season last night, when that popped up in their last game, did not seem like it was particularly comfortable for Kyler. What's your understanding about the odds that we see him coming up on Sunday?
Not great, I mean, and it's not just like, let's say, I don't know, pick your pocket passer. Let's say, one of the older pocket passers had a hamstring injury. You'd be like, okay, well, like, he could move around the pocket. He'll probably be fine. Kyler Murray is dynamic. He is athletic. He moves probably as well as anyone. And I would say he needs 2 healthy hamstrings to be himself. And I think this is part of it, because it's not really like, oh, can he, fight through an injury? Is he tough enough? It's like, can he be the quarterback that he actually is with a bad hamstring? And I would have some doubts on that. So, I mean, I think there really is a chance we see Colt McCoy this week. There's a reason why you pay all these backups so much money to stand there and hold a clipboard. So if you have to turn to them, you have some confidence, and I think he's a pretty good one for Arizona.
It was interesting watching the exchange last night on Hard Knocks with the mics on between Kyler and DeAndre Hopkins on the sideline last week, because I know there were some people who thought, well, this is just them talking. It looked to me, watching it live, like they are arguing, and then you watch the clip, and DeAndre Hopkins is basically saying, what are you looking at? I'm open. Why am I not getting the ball? You had the report last weekend that the Cardinals had gotten trade calls on DeAndre Hopkins. How seriously, if at all, Ian, did they consider any offers that they got? And quite frankly, does DeAndre Hopkins want to be in Arizona right now?
Well, there's definitely some frustration on the sideline. And reality is he's going to be in Arizona through the season. Usually, Tom, when there are trade rumors, they don't evaporate into nothing, right? Like, you and I both keep a pretty solid whiteboard in our office on things to check on and things that are storylines that are ongoing. I will not be removing DeAndre Hopkins' future from my whiteboard, because teams tried to get him this time. I would imagine they will try to get him in the offseason, and it's really just, is the right price. And I didn't get the sense that Steve Keim considered it seriously at all. And when I talked to some people who called, basically what they said is he's not trading him. So that makes sense. But they're, kind of running out of time to fix it. And I think, the DeAndre Hopkins suspension, probably short-circuited this a little bit too, because it made it much harder for the team to start the season, give them a much, sort of higher learning curve, it's tough. It's been a tough season, and they got to fix this pretty quickly.
What happened with Darren Waller, and what is still happening with Darren Waller here, Ian?
Yeah, so, every year there's like 2 or 3 hamstring injuries to star players that just don't get better. And I would say Keenan Allen's probably in the same boat. I don't get the sense they're going to do this to Keenan Allen, but it's a hamstring that just hasn't gotten better. And each time you practice a little bit, instead of being just kind of a hurdle you overcome, it just gets worse. And I think for Waller, every time he tried to practice, it got worse. They put him on IR. He is now out 4 games, and hopefully by the time he returns, his hamstring will be better. It also leads you to wonder why this wasn't done earlier. But hamstrings are kind of different, and so much of it is like a feel injury that maybe that was the feel they got early on, was that, we can manage this. I'd say the frustrating thing, though, is like this is supposed to be a great celebration of a season for the Raiders. New coach, new GM, new star players. I know they rebuffed trade offers for Waller at the deadline, and nothing has gone according to plan for the Raiders.
There were a lot of depressed people in the studio when news broke on Darren Waller landing on IR. I think we're 3 for 4 of having him on a fantasy team.
4 for 4.
And you're 4 for 4. All 4 people in this studio have Darren Waller on a fantasy team, including myself here. The guys also had a question for me about whether or not Josh McDaniels is on the hot seat. My answer, in short, Ian, was there's no reason to believe that right now. This has obviously been a disappointing start to the season. There was also always an inevitable type of growth process that was going to have to take place when you're changing things culturally and schematically with a veteran team of big personalities that won and were in the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
Do you agree with my assessment, and where do the Raiders really go from here?
I do not believe he is in trouble. I was also told by very, very high-ranking sources in Indy that Frank Reich was not in trouble 2 weeks ago. And I'm pretty sure he got fired on Monday. So it's the NFL. It moves way faster than it ever has moved. So I understand that, but I don't believe he's in trouble either. And it's really, really interesting for the Raiders because they are not good. And I think everyone expected them to be good. And they just put one of their best players on IR. They cut a former first-round draft pick in Jonathan Abram. And they face a Colts team this week that is pretty horrific and also has Jeff Saturday as their head coach. If the Raiders continue to be bad, like really, really bad, that would be terrible. However, it would also put them in position to have a really, really high draft pick and allow this, general manager and coach to start to build their own foundation after taking over from the scraps of Mayock and whatever wasteland of first-round picks that he left them. It's really like a fascinating spot for the organization. And I don't know that they would embrace, a high draft pick, but it would not hurt in the long run if they're able to take someone in the top 5 or the top 10 for a team that probably did not expect to be able to do that.
We can't get enough of the Jeff Saturday press conferences here, Ian. The new saying, every day is Saturday, I think is it's very popular right now. What are your early impressions of everything you've seen and heard since Jeff Saturday was plucked from his TV analyst job and handed the reins of a Colts team that's trying to figure this thing out?
I have no idea if Saturday is going to be good or not. But if he was bad at press conferences, that would say a lot of bad things about his TV job. He literally talks for a living. If his
not anymore.
Well, it's basically what he does now anyway. But if his press conferences sucked, you'd be like, what was he doing over there at whatever show he was on, right? So he should be good. It makes sense that he's good. And I don't know that it matters at all because, giving speeches in the locker room is about 0.01% of what you do as a head coach. I think he sounds good. It's, still in a position where he should probably not be there, given all the other talented people who are actually coaches. But I would say his press conferences sound good.
Like you mentioned Mike Mayock in there and the drafting record, which, as we both know, it's hard to really pinpoint who was making the picks because John Gruden had such a huge influence over the organization, everything they did personnel-wise. But Mayock's another good example. Mike is a great guy. We both know him really well from working with him at NFL Network, and a good evaluator of talent. But there's so many other things that go with that job just on the front office side, on the evaluation side. It's about running your meetings. It's about having a plan for where your area scouts are going to be. It's how you go through the pre-draft process. Plucking him just set him in such a... Basically, he wanted to be a college scout. He could still evaluate players, but all those other things weren't really what he was about. And coaching, in my opinion, is so much harder because of all the other aspects of that job and the way that you have to manage the players. I mean, is the GM, unless you're cutting the player or signing him, you're probably not super involved. Now, if something goes wrong, whatever. But on the coaching side, you're involved every single day. It's wild to me when you have somebody hired directly off TV. And granted, I would say Ian, Jeff Saturday, and Mike Mayock both more qualified than me or you to take that job. But it's a lot easier to sit here and talk about things that went wrong and what you would do differently, or getting a call from your boss or your future boss saying, hey, how would you fix this? I don't know. Tell them to block better. All right, you're hired. That's basically what happened here with Jim Irsay hiring Jeff Saturday. Yeah. I don't know how you translate one to the other, especially when the locker room, quite frankly, no offense to Jeff Saturday, but I don't know that 90% of the guys in that locker room know who he is.
Yeah, I mean, well, he's been around the organization plenty with, Ring of Honor stuff, so I would assume they have some idea. But, yeah, so I will never forget, like, a week. I was so excited for Mike Mayock to get the Raiders GM job, right? I mean, I love Mayock. Like, he's great. He was a great teammate at NFL Network. And I was so excited. And I will never forget early on getting a call from one of the scouts there who was like, hey, Mayock doesn't really know what he's doing. Like, what? I'm like, yeah, like all the stuff that, like, the meetings and, like, the planning and, like, I think it's going to be fine. He really doesn't know. And I guess eventually he figured it out because he did the job for a couple of years, but, like, it's very different. And, Jeff Saturday saying that, well, I've seen successful GMs and I've watched coaches, like, okay, cool. You also had Peyton Manning, but whatever. Like, watch people be good. That is not the same as actually doing it. We'll see what happens. Maybe he gets to prove everyone, including me, wrong. But I'll stop talking.
Last thing, Ian, for you before we let you run. You mentioned the whiteboard in there. You and I do take. TJ was asking earlier about what goes into being an insider. Like, a big part of it is organization and just like not forgetting the things that are going on in the league and being able to kind of have a running log. And one of the things that you like to do is whether you break the story or not, if it's a big story, you send us a video of you erasing that off the whiteboard, which is always a big moment. What's your favorite thing, whether you broke it or not, your favorite thing that you were finally able to erase off the whiteboard so far this year?
I would say my favorite one, getting to erase Deshaun Watson, knowing everything that went into, getting that one and reporting it in the way that we did, like, every step along the way for months and months, like, that was fun. I enjoyed the Baker Mayfield wipe-off. Like, that was a lot of fun because that was, the story. Like, I was on the golf course playing Congressional. I got a call when I'm in the sand trap that, hey, this is going down, and, like, you're, like, the go call is coming and all. And it was stressful and it was fun, and we ended up breaking it. And I was in D.C., so I was away. And being able to come home, literally the first thing I did when I came back was like, can't wait to erase this thing. And it was awesome.
Did you hit the shot from the sand trap or tweet first?
I was waiting on the call because if I remember correctly, Darnold needed to be called. And I wasn't going to mess that up, right? Because that's just, there's a way to do business, right? So I was like, all right, I'll wait. And it took like 4 minutes. We let a group go through us, and at some point, we were like, I had my friend hold the phone, and I'm like, if you get a thumbs up from this person, you just hit send. And I hit the bunker shot. I bladed it out of the bunker over the green, ended up double bogeying the hole. And as I'm walking to the next tee box, I got the go call, and then, yelled as loud as I could, hit an absolute bomb of a drive on 17, and then finished the round. It was awesome.
I've played golf with you before. You did not hit a bomb.
No, I hit it.
You have bombs on Twitter here and there.
No. I'm hitting a lot further now. A lot more length off the tee.
Average drives when we played together last summer. How much longer was my drive than yours?
Well, I mean, you could never measure it because it could go literally anywhere.
That's true.
That's one of the.
Some of them weren't accurate, but I'd say 80 yards conservatively.
No, get out of here! No way. No. I drive it. I'm very realistic. My best drives are like 270. If I bomb it, it'll be like 290. But I'm saying
no chance. You are not hitting 270. There is no way.
I told you I'm hitting it a lot further now.
All right. Well, we'll have to get back out on the course. Thank you, Ian. Appreciate you taking the time on a busy day.
All right. Bye-bye.
Ian plays like a 75-year-old. Like, he is dead straight, but like driver goes maybe 205, wedge 75. Like, he just hits it straight, and he's good around the greens and can putt. And I hit the ball. I almost drove like 2 or 3 greens when I was with him. We were playing a shorter course in New York. And then I would 6 chips and putts to get it in. That's the big difference there. You can see Ian and me. Card does not say me, but by the way, I am also on the NFL Network pregame show before that Seahawks Buccaneers game in Munich on Sunday. The show starts at 7 a.m. Eastern.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.